Based on true story. The Peppermint Anchor. The afternoon air was thick, heavy with a suffocating tension long before I reached the curb. In the school parking lot, the world had fractured. My father's driver, a man who usually moved with the stoic precision of a clock, was suddenly a blur of panicked motion. In his arms was his son, a tiny boy of only 2 or 3, whose usually bright toddler energy had been replaced by a haunting porcelain paleness. The boy's chest was heaving in shallow, desperate jerks, his small frame folding under the weight of an asthma attack that seemed to be stealing his very life. Those wide, terrified eyes locked onto mine for a heartbeat, a silent plea for the air his lungs refused to take, before the car door slammed and they sped away toward the hospital. Left behind in the sudden silence, I was a hollow shell of adrenaline and fear. I couldn't wait for a ride. I couldn't stay still. I bolted from the school gates, my legs moving faster than my thoughts, my mind a chaotic loop of the boy's gasping breath. I wasn't looking at the world. I was running through a nightmare. I reached the edge of the main road, where the gray asphalt shimmered with the heat of passing engines. I didn't stop. I didn't look. My momentum carried me directly into the path of a massive truck that roared like a physical beast. The screech of brakes and the wall of wind from the vehicle should have been the last things I ever felt. Then, the world tilted. A firm, immovable strength suddenly anchored me. A hand caught the loop of my backpack with a force that was both sudden and remarkably gentle. But it wasn't just the physical tug. In that split second, it felt as if an invisible, shimmering barrier had materialized between my face and the cold, oncoming metal of the truck. The impact never came, because the air itself seemed to harden into a shield, holding me back from a collision that should have been inevitable. I stumbled back into the rough wool of a coat. The sharp, metallic scent of exhaust fumes was instantly cut by the cooling aroma of peppermint. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird, but as I looked up, I met eyes the color of weathered sea glass. He was a thin man, appearing almost fragile at first glance, yet he possessed a strength that felt ancient, like an iron anchor buried deep in the earth. He didn't scold me for my recklessness. He didn't even speak. He simply kept his hand on my shoulder, grounding me until my breathing finally slowed to match his own calm, rhythmic pace. As he guided me across the asphalt, his presence felt like a quiet shield against the chaotic swarm of cars. He moved with a deliberate, graceful ease that stilled the air around us. To my logic, he was merely a stranger, someone I had never seen in my neighborhood, a face that belonged to no part of my life. Yet, another part of me, the part that had felt that invisible wall stop the truck, whispered that I was walking beside something divine wearing a human mask. It felt as if God had borrowed a body just to stand on that specific curb at that exact microsecond. When we reached the safety of the far sidewalk, I turned to finally catch my breath and offer a word of thanks. The space beside me was empty. One moment he was a solid peppermint-scented anchor, and the next he had simply dissolved into the shifting shadows of the afternoon sun. There was no retreating figure in the distance, no flash of a worn wool coat in the crowd. He had vanished as if the fabric of the universe had folded around him, swallowing him whole once his task was done. I stood there for a long time, staring at the spot where he had been. I never told anyone about him. It became a secret tucked away in the quietest part of my soul, a miracle too heavy for everyday words. Years have passed now. The driver's son grew up healthy and strong, but the memory of the thin stranger has never faded. I still find myself scanning the faces of strangers on park benches or street corners, searching for those sea glass eyes. Sometimes, I whisper a prayer into the wind, asking to see him just one more time. Not because I am in danger, but because I want to pay him back. I want to buy him a meal or offer a coat, to do something tangible for the man who gave me the rest of my life. But deep down, I know the debt isn't meant to be paid in cash or favors. It's a debt paid by remembering that I am never truly walking alone, and by being ready to reach out my own hand whenever the world starts to move too fast for someone else.